All right, welcome back. My name is Chris Aginelli. I get to build, buy, and sell simple profit businesses every single day. And today we're talking about the 5 exits that you'll experience as an entrepreneur, right? So, as a bootstrapper building a business on a budget, as an entrepreneur looking to build a better business, right? Whether we're raising venture capital or you're building profit led, all right, businesses trying to get to simple profitable outcomes, the reality is everybody eventually exits, right? So we all eventually exit. It's just a matter of why and when, right? So some of us exit for the right reasons being choice, right? We're deciding, we have the freedom to decide to exit. Some of us, we lose that choice. Maybe we raise wrong in terms of capital, or maybe for whatever reason, we're just not executing inside of our day-to-day business, inside of our business system. And for whatever reason, we no longer have the privilege to be in business and we're forced out, right? We're forced to exit. So whether or not we choose to, we all eventually exit at some point. The ultimate exit being, I guess, death, not to not to go there, but reality is we all eventually exit. So what we try to promote is the concept of exiting right? We want you to always be exiting. We want to help you exit the right way. And one of the best possible ways to be exit ready and make sure that you're doing the right things at the right time to be able to get to the next exit is to know where you're at. So today's video, we're going to be talking about the 5 exits that every entrepreneur eventually has to navigate through. And in talking about each of the 5 exits, we're going to review what the exit is, why it matters, and what you're focusing on so that you can then hopefully focus, strategy equals focus, and operationalize, get to operational excellence to the right things at the right time in the right manner so that you're hopefully exiting right? So you have the freedom to decide. So first things first, this ties back to the business operating system. So we believe that, when you're looking at a business, you're trying to build wedge, which is that incremental value of a business. In building wedge, you can build the brand equity, which is the money's multiple. So you have the revenue engine, the ways in which you're acquiring customers. You have the customer retention and moats, which is increasing lifetime value of customers. You got customer diversification portfolio. Those things drive money's multiple, or how much value in terms of a multiplying effect your business may get in the market. And then you have this other thing called operational equity, which allows you to reduce risk inside of your business. And when you operationalize your business, what you're really trying to do is get it to sustainability through standardization, right? Repeatable things that provide a high level of confidence that the same outcome will take place, right? It takes risk off the table. And it's really what's turning your business from a liability or a job into an asset that somebody else would potentially want to buy, right? It makes it appealing to others, potentially investors or buyers. So for those reasons we care, and the way that we care is to get to operational excellence. And one of the ways is to operationalize the business by installing a simple operating system. So from a scope perspective, we're going to be backing into the 5 exits and how that pertains to what type of simple OS, simple operating system, or where your focus is at the given stages, right? Because one of the things that a lot of folks have a challenge with is knowing the right things to do when, right? And based off of our exits that we're going to be going through, you got to focus on certain things because certain things matter at certain times that are completely irrelevant. So we're not trying to solve for, Fortune 500 Microsoft problems if we're a solopreneur or an investpreneur, that's building a side hustle, right? Different problems, different moments in time. In terms of the 5 exits, we have the first, everything starts somewhere. And that is literally leaving the day job, making this your full-time focus. And if you're working in a job, which with Entrepreneurship, we promote, go get a job, get somebody to pay you to get experience, take all that experience, some of that pay, go build something on the side. You may be doing this on the side, and that's okay, right? The goal is to keep it simple and keep it focused, right? So leaving the job makes this your job. So exit number 1, you're really giving yourself a new job because you're doing the work, right? So if you find yourself where you're doing the work inside of your business in order to make money, you have a job and that job is your business, right? It's really a liability. And our goal is to start to implement some things that will turn it into an asset, turn it into a business. The next exit is you want to exit out of doing the work, right? So you want to stop doing the work, which means that you're going to start managing people, right? If you stop doing the work, you're going to start hiring so that other people do that work that you were previously doing, which means that you're now starting to manage people. It requires a different type of business system to manage somebody than to manage yourself, right? So that's the next exit. The third exit is you're going to stop managing people. The moment you stop managing people is the moment you start running or operating the business, right? So now you're starting to really systematize a more mature business system so that you can run the business, right? You can run the day-to-day operations of the business instead of managing people into tasks and production, right? Exit number 4 is going to be, you're going to stop operating the day-to-day of the business and you're going to start owning the business, right? Ownership of an asset, oftentimes entails a passive nature, right? So oftentimes, when I look at our own portfolio, the businesses that we're purely owning and not operating, we're not actively involved with. It is a true passive holding structure where we're a holding company. We have financial responsibilities, but in terms of a day-to-day operations, we're out of it, right? The 5th exit, and hopefully this is the one that you can control based off the actions and decisions you're making in the day-to-day. The 5th exit is you're going to stop owning the business. And you're going to exit out of the business, and hopefully you're doing it the right way for the right reasons at the right time, to hopefully get to the right outcome. It's a decision you have the freedom to decide to make. You're not being forced to make, right? So those are the 5 exits. When we're looking at the first exit, what you're really, it's a solopreneur, let's call it what it is, right? You're typically a single person, providing a service, or you're maybe building a SaaS, right? You're an indie, you're likely very much so bootstrapping at this stage. And the focus and the goal is simple, right? You want to establish simple, focused, right? Again, strategy equals focused, and accountable systems, because the goal here is to keep yourself accountable and keep yourself focused on what matters, because the constraints that you're operating within are really time constraints, right? It's time and money, right? And because you have a lack of money, you're trying to sweat equity, buy time, pay for it with time, and your constraint becomes time. You only have so many hours in a day. You can only get so much done. So it's really important that you're focused at this moment in time, and that you're really emphasizing, where you're placing and investing your time into the right places, ideally through simple systems that help support repeatable processes that are going to get you towards your goal, right? When you're not thinking about everything else and you're just thinking about the right things, that's typically the fastest way to kind of move forward and go from 0 to 1. And 1 being the second exit, which is now you have something, right? You're no longer building something, you have something. And because you have something, you have revenue coming in. And because you laid the groundwork of foundational processes and systems in exit number 1, do for yourself before you do for others. Because you did it for yourself, you now have a simple operating system that you can actually bring other people into successfully. And they can follow frameworks, right? So they could follow those simple processes that you laid out, and you can help them measure what matters because you were measuring for yourself what mattered, right? By keeping attentive account to what was important to help move things down the goal line, move things down the field, right? And being focused within those right goals, you are now setting that same framework for other folks that you're bringing into your team. So now you're able to delve into more of a teachable, right? It's teach, train, equipped into those processes, helping them focus, really focusing on measuring what matters within the goal of performance, right? Outcomes. So you're trying to drive with profit-led financials because now you have people that you have to pay for, right? So you really care about running profit-led financials at this moment in time, because you need to make sure the output of the people you're bringing on is greater than the cost, right? So there's a true business case for why you're now running profit-led financials. And by being focused within your strategy and how you're managing processes to be able to get to outcomes, you're starting to be able to grow the business in an efficient, effective manner, right? That sets you up for exit number 3, which is management, right? So you're shifting from managing the team, right? The people, to now you're really overseeing and running the day-to-day of the business, right? So you're focusing on managing day-to-day operations, right? You really care more about the business system. You want to be able to see how your business system, your customer journey flows. So you're trying to understand how a customer comes in, what the various touch points are of that customer, what they're experiencing as they're going through your business system. And your goal is to identify potential blockers or constraints on your customer journey, on your business system, on your throughput, the revenue, right? How the money flows through your business. You're trying to identify the constraints on that so that you can, in identifying them, either ring fence them, meaning you're taking away the risk of them, or you're removing them entirely and simplifying the business system, right? So you want to focus on how money and customers flow through, how the people inside your business are supporting and appreciating the customers as the money and customers are flowing through. You're focusing on more detailed workflows and automations to help simplify, right? Remove potential errors from the business, right? The human capital errors, simplify for human capital, drive better effectiveness, efficiency, and effectiveness of the people on your team. You're trying to really tie things to more KPIs in terms of actions to KPIs so that you could be keeping track of measure what matters from an entire business perspective. And you're really trying to adopt, because of that, a data-driven approach to making good, timely decisions inside the day-to-day of the business, right? So now you're really managing and optimizing this business as a business system, right? When you have a really good business system in place and it's running, it's humming, right? And you're out of the day-to-day and you're allowed to be in more of a leadership role, that gets you to exit number 4, which now you're really, you're operating, you're placing somebody to operate the business, right? You're owning the business, right? This is realistically where more strategic leadership is coming into play. And you care you care less about the tactical aspects of inputs to outputs of what's going on to make your business run. And you care more about the people that are helping it run and going to continue to help it run, because you're out of the day-to-day. So it's really more about empowerment and facilitation of others, right? Your human capital on your team to follow the process and the systems that you've already laid the foundation for, because you did it for yourself before you do it for others, right? You've invested all of this time, effort, energy. So you really want to make sure that you're maximizing the value and the output from it, right? So this is where you're caring more about the people, and all of the systems and processes are tied to people, right? So you want to make sure there's clear roles and responsibilities, which you've already had, but now you're really, really trying to make sure that you got the right people into the right roles at the right time, doing the right things with the right resources, right? So you're going through the entire people appreciation process. You're making sure that there's good communication processes in place. So there's good feedback loops, right? So that people are sending and receiving the right messages across the organization. You want to make sure that you're really leading strategically, right? So your North Star strategy is critically important, because what you're really trying to lead with is culture, right? You want to have that vision, purpose, mission, and then that vision, purpose, mission is what's really driving the why behind the objective strategies, actions that are getting delegated and reinforced at the people level. And you're reinforcing it through things like reward systems, right? Systems to be able to reward and appreciate people for achieving goals and objectives that are very clear, because your profit-led, right? Your profit-led financials are helping you steer from a left perspective, making good, timely decisions to help folks hopefully navigate towards that North Star strategy. Now you're really in a position where you have a complete business system, and that's really preparing you for that 5th and final exit, where you're trying to really just, ultimately unlock as much possible value as you can inside of this business that you've really built better because you've been able to follow all of these 5 exits and you've installed or implemented the right levels of operational excellence inside of it as you're building your brand equity at the same time and delivering a really great customer experience. This 5th exit is when you're going to sell. So at this stage, you're like, I want to get maximum value, on market and resale. In some situations, this could be a total exit where you're selling all your equity. In some situations, this may be a minority exit where you're selling a minority stake, partial exit, but you're getting a little bit of liquidity. And then maybe you're staying on for that second bite of the apple. If you're selling to a strategic or private equity group and they're going to sell, in 3 to 5 years after they go through the process that we're teaching you how to do now, right? Because we want to show you how to do this so you are the one that's getting the value, right? Don't spend 20 years building something, 5, 10, 15, 20 more years building something with your life and then leave money on the table because you're not focusing on how to unlock that value, right? Learn how other folks unlock the value in the market and then do it yourself so you get the value, right? So in this final exit, you're preparing for sale, you're preparing to transfer off the asset. And maybe that operator that you hired is coming on and maybe it's a management buyout and they're going to come in as an equity partner and you're just going to be like passive at the beach, right? True passive ownership at that stage. Whatever the situation or scenario is, this is what we're building towards. So at this point, we just want to make sure that we're really focusing in, we're enhancing, we're growing, we're perfecting the revenue engine, the brand equity blueprint, right? Implementing a brand equity blueprint, making sure the revenue engine's humming, making sure we're really retaining and getting maximum value from the customers we have, that we have a really diversified set of customers. We're maximizing that money's multiple of exit. And then we're really executing in regards to the operational excellence of installing a simple operating system and making sure that we're supporting the process of improving and optimizing our business system, building our operational equity as we're growing, as we're maturing through the stages. This is ultimately going to build this into a buyable asset or a sellable asset, right? Buyable because somebody else would be willing to exchange their money for this because they see it as a place to park their capital, and it's investable, right? It's an asset. It's not a job. I don't want to go buy a job. I want to go buy something that's going to pay me consistently, sustainably, repeatably, right? Low risk. So that's what we're working towards here. And by understanding where we are in the journey, right? By understanding where we are in the journey, we can focus on what we need to implement, right? So where we should be, what we should be focusing on, what stage, what exit we're at. That way strategy equals focus. Ignore the stuff that doesn't matter. Focus on the things that does. And, maybe we're at exit, maybe we're at exit 3. But you know what? We don't know what we don't know, and we're all learning together. So maybe at exit 1 or exit 2, we kind of skipped some steps. We were a little bit maybe lazy because we didn't even know. So that means like there's some cleanup work that needs to be done. So at exit 3, we need to itemize and assess where we are, but then we also need to go back and maybe fill some gaps and improve foundationally, from what we've already missed, because this is a foundational process. If we do this the right way, we're building foundationally right from exit number 1 all the way through. And when we're ultimately at that final exit, that's how we can command maximum value and market when it is time to sell. Hopefully this video was valuable to you. We look forward to getting your feedback.